So it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to get started, John. I'm really excited to have John as our closing webinar speaker in our Community Resilience series. It's been over the last 10 weeks. John is extremely charismatic. I'm really grateful that I found him in the search for supports during COVID as to what advice and what input would really help our communities and our businesses here in Saskatchewan. So John may be well known to some of you. He's a member of the International Downtown Association, the National Main Street Network in the United States, and also the International Economic Development Council. So some of you may have met John at some of those events. John has developed what he calls the destination strategy. And he helps independent businesses and communities to draw customers to the businesses and by virtue of that, draw customers and visitors to communities. So I'm really excited that you're with us. I'm going to turn over the podium to you, John, and please field questions by chat, or we can just have conversation at the end of the presentation, actually. So,
great.
Okay.
Verona, thanks. Logan, thanks for putting me on the big screen. And what we'll do is we'll take questions. I've got about seven key points that I want to bring to you and kind of introduce the ideas of my destination strategy to you. When we do this, by the way, Verona has a set of notes that you'll get afterwards that have all of my printed slides. The reason I don't give notes to attendees beforehand is you end up looking at the notes. You don't end up listening to the session, so you can get these notes afterwards. But it's really important right now just to kind of sit, listen, be focused on what I'm talking to you about, because it's a little bit different of a strategy as far as making a community a destination, the way that I have approached this. And I'll give you a little background so that you can kind of understand this. So when we talk about this new normal, the business reinvention, the new normal, it's important to kind of back up and let me explain what I do. So I teach a 14-step business differentiation process that when businesses use this process, consumers naturally from a local basis say, I want to buy from that place, which is often a challenge, and business owners will draw consumers from way outside their marketplace, sometimes coming from hundreds of kilometers away. And so this process I've learned and studied for the last 23 years. I was with a company in the United States called Hallmark Cards for my first 10 years. And then the last 23 years, I started on my own. But I didn't start out with this process. How I first started this company was I had a 90-minute workshop talking about marketing in a very generic way. And I would literally go to communities and do a 90-minute workshop, and then communities would kind of set me loose. And I primarily started, in the United States. And I'm going to tell you about 3 cities, 3 smaller communities, but I want you to look at you don't really need to know these places. All of them are rural in basis. All of them are distant from any major rural central urban cores. So the first one, I want you to remember, Fredericksburg, Texas has a population of 8,900 people. A little community south of Cleveland, Ohio, an hour and 15 minutes, called Hartville, Ohio, has a population of 2,944 people. And Atchison, Kansas is in far eastern Kansas, a very rural state in the United States, and they have a population of 10,900. So I want you to kind of remember these numbers, because I want to tell a story about some of these businesses. Now, I spoke in this little town of Fredericksburg, Texas, 8,900 people, and I met these 2 entrepreneurs, John and Marilyn Thomas, and they said to me, we have a farm that's a destination. And I said, well, I'd like to see that farm. Is it right here in Fredericksburg, this little town? And they said, no, it's 6 miles outside of town. And we went outside of town, and they had built a huge 100,000 square foot retail space with a 14,000 square foot entryway. And they started showing me around. It was part garden center, greenhouse, nursery, gift shop, women's clothing store, barbecue place. They sold barbecue. They had a wine room in the back. They did concerts in the far back. They had bathrooms that were as large as any stadium you'd ever go into. They brought in bus tours of hundreds of people on a daily basis. And this business in a town of 8,900 people pulls on an average basis 375,000 consumers from all over North America. Now, how do they do this? I studied John. I walked around with him when I first met him, and I was amazed by this, but literally walked around. I was 20 years ago. I had a cassette tape recorder I used to carry, and I recorded a 2-hour session walking around talking to him about how he started, how he developed, how he got to this point. He's the largest producer of wildflower seeds in the United States. That's his background was in botany. His wife was a 5th-generation rice farmer. They had no retail experience, and yet they were able to create this retail store in this small town that was pulling in almost 400,000 customers a year. Now, at this town of Hartville, Ohio, that I just mentioned, 2,900 people in Hartville. You might not have ever heard of Hartville, but it's the home of the world's largest hardware store. How did I learn about this? I was at a hardware convention. I speak for communities. I'll go to different cities and towns and areas, economic development organizations, chambers of commerce, but I also go to big conferences. I was at an international hardware conference. Somebody said, you probably know Howard Miller. I said, I've never heard of Howard Miller. They said he's the owner of the Hartville hardware store. I said, I don't know what that is. Turns out it's the world's largest hardware store in a town of 2,900. They have their own, this store that you're looking at here on the screen is 305,000 square feet. So 305,000 square feet is as big as some malls in the United States. They have their own salad dressing plant. They've got a restaurant. And they didn't start out as a hardware store. They started out, as a livestock auction house. And then they added a restaurant, and then they bought a 2,500 square foot hardware store that was going out of business, and they eventually morphed to this. Now, how does this possibly exist in a town of 2,900 people? It shouldn't, but I spent 2 hours with Howard, and I've interviewed him since and worked with their company since, but they have become this destination in the community where they're at their peak, they employ 240 people, almost 10% of this little community's residents. I want to tell you about this business. This is the very first place I ever spoke 23 years ago in a town of Atchison, Kansas. You might have never heard of Atchison, Kansas, but it's the home of Amelia Earhart, the female aviator who tried to fly around the world. So in Atchison, Kansas, I met a retailer named Mary Carol Garrity. Her store was called Nell Hills. It was a very actually a pretty decrepit downtown where it was located. Her business was in this aluminum clad ugly building in their downtown. They have no parking in front of their business because the community had tried to make it a walking downtown mall. They put ugly concrete awnings on all the buildings that you see here. And I'm not talking behind their back. I've told them this. I've told them they're very ugly. But she walked me through her business 23 years ago, and she sells furniture and home decor and gifts in this town of 10,900 people. And I asked her, can you tell me what your sales volume is? And this was my very first consultation in my very first city. And I asked her, can you share with me that volume? She said, oh, I'm fine sharing that. We did $2.9 million in this building last year. $2.9 million in a town of 10,900 people selling home decor, furniture, and gifts. It turns out she was pulling from literally customers from hundreds of miles away. Sometimes she was having very few customers in her backyard actually make purchases. She was pulling people from all this great distances. I've met with her over the years. I went back a year and a half later. She added up to 4.2 million. She eventually topped out in this location at $6 million per year. Now, how do you do that in a town like this? Most of these business owners, when you start talking to them about what could be a destination, they started to think about something like Disney World or some kind of big attraction or some kind of big national park. But a destination to me can be a retail store, a restaurant, a service business, a professional practice, literally any consumer-oriented business attraction or endeavor. If you use the principles of attraction that I teach, these 14-step principles that really magnify your authenticity, what happens is consumers end up saying, I have to go to that place. Now, why is that important today? Because with COVID-19 right now, we've got consumers that are making less trips, consumers that often, some have been laid off of work who have less purchasing power. And so now more than ever, it's important for businesses in communities and provinces to be using these principles where consumers, with their limited time, their limited trips, sometimes they're not making trips into a business and they're doing it online. How do you get them to say, that's the place I'm going to buy from? Now, I teach this process in its entirety. When people come to Colorado, we have a historic building in downtown Longmont, Colorado. That's where I'm based now. We're all shut down because of COVID-19. This is our building. Normally, we would put people in here. We would normally have groups like this. We've had to go to a total online format. We have 3 destination boot camps in 2020. We have one in July, September, and October. They're going to be all online. So we've now taken our 2.5-day course and converted it to an online version. And when this COVID-19 situation hit, I had just come off of speaking in Alberta to a regional conference there, and then immediately was shut down. What's happened now is that we came back and realized that business owners were getting a lot of national support, a lot of regional and community support, but what they weren't often getting was business help, independent business help that said, this is what you do right now to stay afloat, to drive more customers into your businesses, to increase your revenue, even if you're not open. So we were talking about some of the statistics that are happening in your province, but this website, we built this in 5 days, and it's all designed to give independent business owners a portal where they can go and ask questions, where they can go and they can get feedback, and they can find what I call silver bullet solutions, where a business owner does not have time to read through lists and lists of resources and sort through different pages and pages of a website. I'm trying to give them different tools that when they put this into practice and they follow these steps, it's going to bring revenue into their business, whether they're open or not, or whether they're reopening. That's the other thing that's happening. So I'm going to go through 7 tips that I think are really critical for businesses, because when businesses use these tips, what happens is they naturally pull more customers to them from an outside area. And what happens is the tax base of a community goes up, the customer traffic of a community goes up, and whether you're having customer traffic or not these days, these are tips that business owners need to have to stay alive, to thrive, and to move forward. So the first thing is this, the first key that I want to talk about is this, is that right now, no one's really talking about this, but we're in a process right now, right in the middle of a giant international business reinvention. And what I mean by that is this: typically what happens is when business reinvention happens, it means that we have components of a business that stop working. For example, you might have a product line that's been sold great for years, and all of a sudden a big competitor comes in, or something big change happens with technology, or something happens and that product line starts trending off and not being able to be sold any longer. That's when a business needs to go through reinvention and say, this product doesn't serve us any longer. It's not generating the revenue it used to do. That happens with services. That happens when competition comes in. That happens when technology happens. That happens when things go online versus being bought locally. Lots of reasons that independent businesses have to go through a business reinvention, and it's kind of a natural process. It's not a comfortable process, but it happens all the time. But what's happening now is this reinvention with COVID-19 has forced every independent business in the world to have to look at itself and say, what parts of my business model are no longer functioning, are no longer generating revenue, and how many of them are never going to generate revenue? And what I'm telling people is we need, as business owners right now, regardless of the situation you're in, whether you're not open, whether you're reopening, whether you're fully open, wherever you are, we need to be listening to customer pain points and their complaints and their disappointments, because that's where our reinvention for the future exists. And I'm telling business owners all over the world that right now, this is not a time to coast. Everybody's working hard, but this is the time to really sprint and to put those things into practice that cause reinvention to happen into your business. And as I say, there are some business owners who are, shut down in North America, in the United States, and I know in Canada, that are, doing things like painting and cleaning and doing this and getting things organized. And this is not the stuff we should be focusing on right now, because we've got to look at different scenarios. What happens if things stay basically the same? boy, we all hope everything is going to get better and it's going to be returning to what was once normal. But there's also the scenario I tell businesses, you better be prepared that if there's comes roaring back this virus or another rebirth of this that comes back, and because one of the things that's happened, you've got to plan for all three of those scenarios: it getting better, it staying the same, or it getting worse. So in this second key, what I'm telling business owners to do, be very conscious about what you're putting your limited time and money and effort into. And so that's where I bring up this tool called the impact and effort sheet. And I'm trying to tell independent business owners, and you'll have this in your notes, you can reference this. I tell independent business owners who are really good at knocking things off a list, staying busy all day, doing transactional type effort, that you need to start analyzing right now your efforts and your planned changes for your business before you do it. Before you just jump into action, what I need you to do is list these things on a sheet that I call the impact and effort sheet, and then go back and graph it. And here's why: because with every major action you take, with every major action, you're going to have to expend some effort. And I don't mean just physical time. I mean your own focus and money and limited amount of time that you have available with all the other things you're doing. And then I want every business owner, every client of mine, I'm telling right now, you need to evaluate before you go and jump into some action, how much impact is this really going to have on my bottom line? And is this impact really going to help me reinvent part of my business in case the worst case scenario happens with this virus, especially in the third or fourth quarter of the year? And so I try to get owners to plot these things down, because there's 4 areas here in this graph. It's a pretty simple 2 axes, one axis showing the amount of impact some action can have, and then the amount of effort it takes moving along the bottom axis. So what a lot of business owners do is they will not find high impact, low effort activities. What I've got in this webinar for all of you, and I'm going to be giving Verona a private website link to this, or I guess Verona will be giving that private link. But there are businesses right now that have available to them high impact activities that take very little effort. And that's what I've put into this webinar this morning, this reinvention webinar. Now, a lot of business owners, if you really go through reinvention, high impact, high efforts, a lot of times what it has to happen, you're bringing in a new product line, you're adding a whole new wealth of services for your customers. Maybe you're doing something like rebuilding an entire website, launching an e-commerce site. All of those things are high impact and high effort. These 2 areas up here, today's webinar is going to focus on a lot of high impact, low effort things that you could tell your local businesses, or if you're a business that's listening, you can put this into practice really pretty quick. High impact, high effort takes time. You have to break it down into steps, but these are the kind of things that lead to business reinvention. Down here in the lower part here, low impact, low effort, low impact, high effort. These are the areas we right now need to avoid. I know we have to do some of these things. These are some of the things that make up our regular business day as business owners, as entrepreneurs, but we need to spend as much time as we can in these upper 2 quadrants that we can be focusing on things that will help us reinvent our business model. Let's look at key number 3. And key number 3 is this. I tell business owners these days, you cannot market like you used to. You have to now adopt what I call a daily destination mindset. And what I mean by that is this. This is the destination definition, that a destination business is a business that's so compellingly different that customers say, that's the only place I'm buying. That's the only place I'm going. And we've got to create what I call customer insistence. And we do that through a series of steps where customers end up saying, I love these guys. And the good news is it doesn't take too many of those steps for a consumer to say, hey, let's go to their place, or let's buy here. Let's not buy some other place. In fact, I think independent business owners these days, They're kind of the foundation of business reinvention because they have a much easier time than changing than like a national chain or some kind of a national franchise. So the destination mindset works like this. I tell business owners, whatever you told the consumer yesterday on why they should visit your business, you better have a new reason today. You better have a new reason, a new product, a new service, a new twist on it that gets them to say and creates that urgency where they say, I like these guys. I want to go see these guys. I'd like to spend with these guys. And so you have to start thinking about what can I offer my customers and my community that no one else can today. And today's reason is probably going to be different than tomorrow. And it's going to be different than the day after tomorrow. So you need to keep serving up these new ideas. And I'll show you some examples of that as we go through this. Number 4 is this: you need to understand your customers' needs today and the changes that have happened in consumer behavior. And this is going to be ongoing. No matter how open we get with our communities and with our world, consumers' behavior and their ideas have changed because they've gone through a very scared situation, stressed. Many of them are bored. Many of them are frustrated at home. Many of them, you talk to parents who've spent, long time with their children. First couple of weeks, a lot of parents really loved it. Last couple of months, driving me crazy. I saw one post that said teachers should make like $1 million a year. You've got to nowadays, as a business owner, you need to be thinking about, I need to create joy and humor and surprises, and for people's problems and their issues and their pain points, I need to create solutions. So one of the key issues with today's consumer is this: they're gonna judge you by how you position your business as far as safety, as far as cleanliness, as far as being aware of the COVID-19. And I don't know exactly what it's like in Canada, but I know in the United States we have everybody who is very, very serious and very concerned about COVID-19, to some people who think it's just a myth. And that's been propagated by different people in our United States. So we have all sorts of different uneven periods of opening up and the wave coming back in. But it's important to understand that safety in your business with fewer customers and higher cleanliness standards are going to be evaluated. And consumers are going to judge you as business owners by how they position themselves. I was talking to some friends. I got my hair cut a couple of weeks ago, and as I was telling my lady cutting my hair that at my age, I've had recurring blood clots. My wife has 2 autoimmune diseases. We've been very serious about this. She's cutting my hair with a mask, and she said, she's saying, I don't think it's such a big deal. I think it's less than the flu, and it's not going to be anything big. And I'm not going to be wearing this mask after this month. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not wearing this mask anymore. So she's telling me this as I'm telling her my concerns for this. And so I became really aware, whatever your personal opinion about the virus is, it's important these days to keep it to yourself. It's important these days to be understanding and put your business in terms of the consumers you want to attract. Now, in this whole process, you've got to flip consumers' disappointment into joy. So I'll give you some examples of business owners, very creative business owners around North America that are doing some really neat things. There was one wedding venue place that had this great lodge that people could stay in. They weren't able to do any of their weddings. You know what they did is they turned in and they flipped it, and they now create elopement packages where the bride and groom can get away, get married, and they can still, the wedding resort can still generate revenue. There's a large hot tub company in the United States that, right now hot tubs are in huge demand, and a lot of them aren't available for 4 and 6 months. You order a new hot tub, you might not get it for 4 or 6 months. So what this one company did is they took in these old hot tubs from these exchanges with customers. They fixed those things up. They made them functional. Now they put in a loaner hot tub for the time you're waiting for your other hot tub. That's become this new product and service. There was a doctor who was doing orthotics for people with foot problems. And when he wasn't able to see customers for 3 months, he created a way that through Zoom videos, he was able to do no travel orthotics. He was able to create pretty accurately an orthotic that would help with that person's foot. And then he gives a guarantee that if it's not right, it'll be fixed. We've seen all type of classes that used to be in person that have all gone online now. And the one of the things that business owners are really embracing, and if you're a business owner listening and you're not embracing this, you should. Videos and the demonstration of your multiple skills is really important these days. I want to show you a business. This is a business called Warm Hugs in Greeley, Colorado, a rural community in Northeast Colorado. And this is Jim and Suzanne Serif. They're business owners that came to my class. Jim is a chef. Suzanne runs her retail store. And one of the things they have that's really a great product line, they make these mixes. They make dip mixes, and they make soup mixes. They make mixes that you can put in with ground beef and turn it into a meatloaf. And they've got all sorts of these different mixes in these little boxes. So how do they get this out when their business was shut down for 3 months? How do they make these sales? A couple of ways. One thing is Jim just went into his kitchen, his commercial kitchen, and he just started doing videos. Not long videos, not selling videos. This is the one here that I've got a picture of. He was doing a 2-minute video on what's the difference between beef broth, using a beef bone, and using beef bouillon cubes. It was a little 2-3 minute video, and he's a cornball, super experienced as a chef. Very, his humor is just not very funny, to be honestly, but he's got thousands of people watching these 2 and 3 minute little cooking videos because people are stuck in their homes and they're trying to figure out how to do things, and he's entertaining. And in the process, he's selling a lot of these products. They're shipping them. They're walking them out to people's cars. Now they're back open, but it took a long time to do that. Key number 5, I want to talk to business. If you're a business owner or a community leader, there's a whole shift in how you have to now position your business if you want to remain profitable. Number 1, you've got to focus on high profit margin products to be generating out of your business. And the second thing is this: you need to focus on what I call IAT, individual average transaction. And what I mean by that is this: typically what we're seeing is a lot of businesses are controlling expenses, which is good. That's all important. And a lot of people will say, oh, cash is king right now because, the economic decline that's happened with us, with the spending cutbacks and the shutdown and all of those times. And so, but what I'm telling business owners is, if you look at a break-even analysis of any business, if you look at the actual financial break-even analysis, controlling expenses is important, but it's not the most important. The most important is growing individual average transaction and generating higher profit margin products as the key drivers of your business. So I want to show you some examples. What a typical sales oriented question would be: what else can we get for you today? That's not the question we should be asking people. We should be thinking about, have you ever seen our new this product line or service, and directing people to high profit margin items that have a above average profit margin to help fuel our companies. And so as we start thinking about this, one of the easiest ways to drive profit margin is to create tiered pricing. You create tiered pricing. If you've ever gone through a drive-through, if you've ever gone through a Tim Hortons, you drive through, you might order a cup of coffee and they say, would you like a donut? Would you like one of our sandwiches? Would you like one of our bowls with that? And they're trying to upsell you. They are creating tiered pricing. They're creating, you could do what you came in for, but what about this and this on top of it? The other thing is you can bundle products together. And in preparation for this, I was looking at some of the different companies that I've seen in Canada when I've been up there. Tim Hortons right now, right on their main website, right on their homepage right now, they've got you can get a digital $10 Tim card. You get a $10 credit when you buy $30 of participating Tim Hortons products. Now, it's very interesting how they position this. So what they say is, if you'd like to learn more, you click over here. Well, first you got to register. First, you got to give them your name and your province and your street address, your postal code, your phone number, and your email. You got to give them all that information. You got to give them all that information to have access to this $10 digital card. So what are they doing here? They've bundled products together, high profit margin products together. They're luring you with a $10 gift card. That's what your reward is. Feels great. Feels like you're getting an extra $10 free. You're really not getting $10 free. What you're getting is that when you make your next purchase, you'll have $10. So it's actually called a bounce back promotion. They're driving you back to their business with that $10 card. It's creating an unplanned visit. But this is a great tactic during this COVID-19 situation. Here's another business in the United States that's doing this, a Pizza Hut. Look at how they bundled this product together. They call it the big dinner box. But really what it is, it's just a lot of bread and cheese. They've got 2 giant pizzas. They've got a bunch of bread rolls, which is just pizza without cheese. And then they've got some wings in this giant box with no, we're open and they have no contact delivery to get it to you. But look at what they've done. They bundled this together in order to drive profit margin. Look at step 6 now here, and we're going to talk about this. This has been really, most businesses have embraced this pretty fully, but I just want to show some more extreme varieties of ultra services. Ultra services are those services. It's actually step 8 in my destination pyramid, where you cause and you create these levels of service that customers just end up loving and bonding to your company. So in this step 8, we're finding right now during this COVID-19 situation, things like pickup and curbside pickup and delivery and no contact delivery. They've got all sorts of words for it. I love all the different variations. We got takeout and call in. We'll bring it out to your car. Call us and we'll run out to the parking lot. Shipping. Businesses that have any idea or any component part of shipping that are taking advantage of this are capitalizing on this. These ultra services are also right now, customers are telling businesses right now, if you had this product or if you had this service for me, I would give you money. They're telling us, they're leading us where that reinvention needs to happen. And we can be creating these customers, bonding these customers to us with these new products. Here's the business that Warm Hugs. Here's what they did, which I just thought was brilliant. So with those mixes that I told you about, those soup mixes and the meatloaf mix and the dip mixes, all those different mixes that they make, they just thought it would be a great thing when the shutdown happened in their area. They thought, wouldn't it be great that we create, they called them random acts of kindness bags, gift bags. Random acts of kindness gift bags. And what people would do is they'd call in and they'd say, hey, I want the meatloaf mix, the soup mix, the dip mix. I want that sent to my neighbor next door. She's shut in. She's there by herself. And they would deliver these bags, and the person who would send the bag would pay for this. And it started out really small. They were just doing it kind of as a good service, and it was generating a little bit of revenue. They were selling 10, 15 a day. And now they're selling this as a regular product line, 30, 40, 50 of these a day. And people are coming in and going, give me 10 of these. I'm going to take these out and give these to some of my neighbors who are kind of shut in, who aren't able to leave. We have a program now in Colorado. It's called Safer at Home. If you're at risk, they're saying, yes, you can go out, but it's best if you're safer at home. Well, this has now developed in an entire product line for this company. But you're seeing ultra services, your after hours, limited hours, early morning hours, limited customers in stores, private shopping appointments, and this one. And this is really critical. I'm seeing business owners all around the country that are generating a lot of revenue, sometimes more revenue than when they were open, with private Facebook shopping groups. Now you say, why would you want to have a private group on Facebook? Well, if you understand how Facebook works, when you post something in Facebook and you have all the businesses have all the people that have liked their page, the number of likes that are associated with a business these days have nothing to do with the ability to transmit a message you post on Facebook. So you now have to pretty much, the number of likes no longer correlates to actually getting that out to the world. What you have to do is generally you have to pay through boosting the post or going into the ads manager to pay for that to get to your people who've liked your page or to get to other people. But if you have a private group, if you've assembled a private Facebook group, what happens is those algorithm rules no longer apply. You can then be putting an announcement out and it immediately goes to all of those people. So this is one of the great tools that business owners are using. Now, this is a business owner in a small town on the Texas-Oklahoma border and called Denison, Texas. And this is Ranelle Inasi. She is the owner. She came to my destination boot camp. They were shut down for 3 months down in Denison, Texas. And she already had this established because she was a very savvy retailer. She called, if you can go online and see it, it's the Zelda Rose Boutique VIP group. It's a private group. She has almost 6,000 individual female consumers in a private shopping group. And they get things that nobody else does twice a week, now more than that. But during the virus, when the shutdown was happening, she was twice a week doing doing this 2 to 3 hour window, the sale. And she would do this sale to her private group. And then she would do things like, if you look at this post that she did, here's Ronell right here, but she would say, invite 3 friends to join this group and we'll give you a $10 discount off your current order. So look at what she's doing. She's giving a discount, but it's not really a discount. It's a bribe to get people to send more friends to her private group. But she told me she was generating 3 times the sales volume of when she was open, even though no customers were coming in her doors using this technique. But this is a great example of what she did. By the way, this community, Denison, Texas, their Chamber of Commerce and their city paid for these signs out front to be available for people who wanted to just do curbside pickup without coming into a business. Step 7 is this. It's really important for businesses these days to market smarter. And when I say that, we're going to go back to some of these tools that they used to use that a lot of people have neglected. The first one is this. You have to create call to actions. And what I mean by that is you can no longer just say, if you're a hardware store, hey, we've got hammers, hardware, lawn, garden, we've got all these things. If you really want to cause people to purchase, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create that urgency. You need to create call to actions with limited windows of opportunity. And in fact, if you're going to give some kind of a special or a deal, you want to have a limited window to do that. By the way, that Tim Hortons one, that's good for like 6 weeks. It was like June 1st through July 15th. They had a limited window of opportunity to get that $10 card. But then you need to change your offers frequently. I'll give you an example of one of these. This is a hardware store that was in our community, and they did this before COVID. But the reason I wanted to show you this, it's an effective offer, 50% off any one item, $30 or less in stock. And by the way, you could only take advantage of this offer for a 4-hour window, 2 to 6 in the afternoon. Now, they did this during the National Football League football season when most people were watching the games on the television or were at the game. They drove over 700 people in with this ad, but this is the kind of ads we have to do. An effective offer doesn't have to be a huge discount like this, but an effective offer with a limited call to action. That's what has to happen. Second way to market smarter is you have to use cross promotions. Business owners are figuring out their competition is not generally the person around the corner, down the street in their own marketplace. And so we're seeing people sharing databases. We're seeing I saw 3 independent businesses that they all had different things. One had a email list of several thousand, one had several thousand Facebook followers, one had all these Instagram followers. They each came up with a promotion. They put it together. The Instagram person put all 3 promotions out to her network. The Facebook person put all 3 promotions out to her network, and the email person who had the strong email list put that out. And so they're sharing databases, and they're using this in a cross-promotional way. And then the last one, this is called a bounce back promotion. We already saw a bounce back promotion earlier with Tim Hortons. When you buy that $10 card, you have to come back in to redeem it. A bounce back promotion is another way that you're building transactions by causing an unplanned consumer visit, and the visit doesn't have to be in person, it can be online. But what you're doing is you're causing a consumer who had not planned to come back for an unplanned visit. And that's what the bounce back is. And so I'll give you a great example. My wife and I, we ate when we were all shut down up here in Colorado. We went to a local restaurant to do takeout, and I got ribs and she got a hamburger. And we came out, and they brought it out to the car, and they had gloves on and the mask and the whole deal. And we brought it back home, and they had the plastic utensils on the inside, and they had the condiments on the inside, and our burger and our ribs were on the inside. The one thing that wasn't there was a bounce back promotion. If they had something in there that said, oh, by the way, this Thursday, 2 days from now, we've got free onion rings when you come in and buy at least 2 hamburgers or 2 entrees. That's a bounce back. It's causing me to go, I like onion rings. I'm going back to this place. Bounce backs create this frequency of visits, which increases the IAT, which increases the amount of revenue, which if you can then drive it to the high profit margin products. Here's a real simple bounce back promotion. This was at a restaurant in Colorado during the fourth quarter of the year. We ate there, a big group ate there. They brought this out to us and said, here you go, here's $20. Here's $20, a gift for you this holiday season, and it's good through the end of February. Now, I walked out of there with this thing, and I was so excited. They'd given me $20. I was saying to myself, I've got $20 here. What a great surprise. Surprises are important with bounce backs. But what really, when you think about it, they really didn't give me $20. Now, when I go back, I've got $20 of value, but I'm probably going to spend much more than $20. But I'm walking out of there really with nothing, a piece of paper that says $20. And so what they're doing, which is really smart, is they're deferring the discount. The customer gets the feel that, oh, I've really got something here. I really got the $10 Tim Hortons card. Well, you really don't. You just have a piece of plastic, but that's going to be driven back, and then it's redeemed. But the bounce back is what makes that effective. All right. So let's take some questions. Let's see, Logan, if you could put us all on the screen here, so that those are my 7 points. If you could put us all on the screen, and we will. I guess I could do this too. I could stop share. I think. Let's see. There you go.
Okay, hey, thanks so much, John. I got to tell you, I'm a sucker for bounce back and bribes. And I noticed right after COVID, I may be on 1 or 2 supplier lists, and though they were savvy, came the email, buy $30 and $10 off your next facial, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not sure how many businesses in Saskatchewan have built up an email list, which is why the Facebook group and strategy is really important.
What's great about the cooperative marketing is business owners have different strengths. Somebody might have an email list. Somebody might be really great at Instagram. Somebody might be really great one-on-one. Somebody might have a great mailing list. There's all sorts of things that you can do. If you combine, you can leverage those multiple forms of marketing together. But let's take some questions from anybody out there. And Verona, how do you want them to ask questions? Do you want them to ask them through chat? Should they unmute themselves?
I think we should just unmute. Let's just go for it and be organic.
Okay.
And I'm sure there must be some questions. I was a really good point that you highlighted. I just want to say about how agile independent businesses are as compared to national. That's a really good point.
Well, and right now what you're seeing, and we're seeing this, is that the national firms, when they're marketing or advertising, they're relying on cliches and discounts. So they're saying things like, this is the new normal. It's really not normal. We're all in this together. We're here for you. They're saying things like that. All really nice thoughts, but they don't have that personal emotional attachment of a business owner being out front of their business and saying, I am here. We're opening up. Please help support us doing these things. So, what I'm finding in North America are the independent business owners are the ones that are leading the charge on this reinvention. They're the ones that can pivot more quickly. And Verona knows this. I do conference calls every week, and sometimes I'll do 3, 4, 5 conference calls where I have 20 business owners from all over the place on my calls. And it is, even though you read that people say there's this many businesses that are going to go out of business, there's this many businesses that are going to close, they're guessing. They're just hypothesizing. And what I tell people is, don't count these independent business owners out, because they learn quickly, they pivot quickly, and they're adaptable. The lady that I showed you in Denison, Texas, who has the 6,000 people in her private Facebook group, and she figured out how to do Facebook Live videos and generate revenue, 3 times the revenue of her business. She's not tech savvy. She's in her 60s like me, but she's figured it out. She said, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going to go down without a fight. And that's what we have to have these days. We've got to have business owners who are looking at this, because the bottom line is these are businesses that enhance your communities. They're the ones that give the flavor and the uniqueness and the one of a kindness that these communities have.
It could also be a business opportunity or a role for perhaps a supporting group, such as a chamber or bid, to maybe come in and manage some of these social functions, right?
It's a perfect example. You know, there are very savvy people, and a lot of times business owners are experts at what they do, their products, their services, their customers. And so if another organization can
Mm-hmm.
take over some of these roles and
Mm-hmm.
then push that down, how great would that be? They'll think of all the owners that would embrace that.
Exactly. So I'll be quiet. I'll let any, if folks want to speak up. I do have a couple of slides we want to put on before we let you go. We're going to announce a little program we're rolling out here in August.
Okay. They would have to unmute themselves to be able to ask a question. That's probably the,
Yes. Yes.
and,
Remember to
and
unmute.
it doesn't have to be about my content. It could be about anything in your community, your area, your city, town, any question you have. And I'll be the first to tell you if I don't have an answer for it. But with all the communities that I've spoken in, worked with, and consulted with, there's generally, I mean, there's brilliance right now that's happening all over our continent, but it's happening in pockets, and they're not always connected. They're not always sharing these things really very well with each other.
Hi, John. Can you hear me?
I can, Bruce.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Great presentation, lots of good tips and advice in there and that. I'm wondering, when you're thinking about creating destinations and making that sort of unique or definable place for yourself, how do you think the heritage characteristics of your building or community can play into that?
You know, it's a great question, and here's the exciting part. So we take businesses through an examination, and Verona will talk, I'm sure, talk about this. We have our 2.5-day class, but we also have now a condensed course called the Destination Creation course. And part of what we take them through is a process called developing your unique position. What makes your business one of a kind? What makes it different? Not only different, but different from everybody else in your industry. And what, Bruce, what happens is businesses can carry the same products, business can offer the same services, but when you get work with an independent business owner, always you can leverage their buildings, their locations, their backgrounds, their history. And if you've got a historic building, in a historic setting, that puts you heads and tails above, because what it does, it gives you something that no one else has. And so a lot of times business owners say, well, I don't know if that's so important. It's hugely important, because it allows you to leverage your unique qualities with products, services, your background, all those things, with something that nobody else has. And what it does is you can actually create a statement. I call it a unique positioning statement that then will help you get the consumer's attention, because that's what this whole thing's about. Can we get a consumer's attention to say, hey, I like these guys. I've never heard of a place like this. And historic locations and historic buildings and historic sites, all of those things, nobody else has them. You know, they're not building those anymore. And so, yes, you can always, it's a neat thing that when I work with independent business owners and I'm talking to them, a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm just like everybody else that's in this industry. And when we dig down, I always use the analogy, it's like an onion. You're kind of peeling away, and pretty soon they're like, well, we do have a pretty cool building. The building used to be a granary, you know, in 1777. And they'll say something like that. And you're like, seriously? And they're like, oh, yeah. It's an old building, you know. But that is cool to consumers. That's cool to every age consumer. And you can leverage that into that uniqueness and start pushing that out to the world. And it has huge marketing power. Yeah, huge marketing power. Does that help?
Bruce.
No, that's great. Good to hear that. And I liked your example from Fredericksburg, Texas. I was down there a couple of years ago, and I saw that place that you referenced there. That is a neat place to go to for sure.
Yeah, you know, and they have those two. They had no retail experience. They faltered through all their startups. They made huge errors, and he runs you know, almost 400,000 people through his doors. You know, roughly 50 times the population of his cities, of his little town that he lives in. I mean, that's not supposed to demographically happen anywhere in the world. And yet these destination businesses consistently do that. You know, when we teach business owners how to do this, what we see, you can measure a sizable increase in the tax base when these business owners leverage these principles that are right at their disposal. Most of the time, business owners, independent owners, we dig far enough, you're able to show them. They might not realize it, but we're able to show them and consumers and the media that this business is really one of a kind and should be getting a lot more attention. Other questions?
It's Tyler Mathis here from Sydney, Cape Breton. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Just a quick question, observing with your viewpoint as mostly based in the U.S. I think this is probably consistent across the country. Our business owners take a little less or maybe too much of a muted response when it comes, or approach to marketing and getting themselves out there and seeking customers and telling people how great they are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this might be an opportunity to change that. I know there's some pent up desire for some of our local businesses to market themselves, but they've been afraid of contravening local public health orders or concerned about, you know, as you said, concerned about their customers, and they don't want to like encourage people to come to their business when other people are telling them to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder if you see some opportunities, I guess, for businesses that might have that built into their DNA or their attitude, that, you know, the strong silent type. If there's a way to turn this situation to their benefit, or if they just need to, you know, get out there and be loud.
No. See, here's what and what was your first name again?
Tyler.
Tyler. And see, Tyler, here's what I see. The businesses that are really, really good at what they do are often the ones that were also told by their parents that they shouldn't brag. They shouldn't say they're better than some other people. And so, you know, in what we see is there's this huge swatch in the middle of the United States where people are like this. They are, and you know, when I've spoken in all the different parts of Canada, what I find is that when I'm in urban areas, big cities, oftentimes I'll find business owners that will brag more, but might not really even be that unique. And then I'll meet business owners in places, you know, small towns or more rural areas, or places that are more distant, and they will really be one of a kind, but they haven't been taught how to position themselves correctly. So yes, you know, part of this whole process is that you brought up a couple of good points. Number one, people who are really, really good at what they do, product specialists, service specialists, experts at their field, often have never taken the time to put themselves out in the world. And so you have to talk to them about that. You have to say it's okay to do this. You have to tell them this is very powerful. You have to explain to them that when they call up a television station or a newspaper or a radio station or an internet blogger, and they introduce themselves and they explain how their business is one of a kind, if they do get publicity from that business, from that media source, it's 12 times more powerful than an advertisement, and it's totally free. So you have to explain to them that, hey, this is how you grow your business, because every business ends up growing it somehow through free publicity. And so you have to teach them how to do that outreach. You have to teach them what makes them unique. And in fact, as they kind of internalize and realize, hey, I really am special. I really am one of a kind. And you have to kind of draw it out. It's like that onion. I keep peeling all layers off until we get to that core. What happens is when owners really get it, they're like, huh, I knew I was good at what I did, but now I feel okay about telling the world. In fact, it becomes internalized, and then they end up telling their employees, and the employee behavior has to change. They end up telling their consumers, and instead of using tired taglines or boring branded campaigns, they actually put out their uniqueness to the world, and then the media comes to them. So that all happens. Now, the whole idea of being safe around, you know, being safe for your consumers, all that's well and good, but there's lots of ways we can deliver product to customers without them coming into a business. And there's there's a whole variety of tools that I'm learning about that business owners are embracing, that are causing them to do 3 and sometimes 4 times their sales volume. I had a business owner in a little teeny town in the state of Kansas, this rural agricultural town, and she uses a couple of these techniques that I talked to you about. And she came back to me and said, I've been open for over 10 years. She said, I had a better April with no customers coming in my door than I did during any of my holiday open houses, Christmas time, Thanksgivings, all the different seasonal events that happened in the fourth quarter. Better when no customers were coming in, but it's because they're embracing these online tools, and they're embracing these ways they are reaching out beyond their border to really magnify and to tell their story about how unique they really are. Is that helpful?
Very much so. Thank you. That's great.
You bet. Any other questions? And I want to make sure, I want to give two addresses, Verona, because I know you're going to close with a couple of slides. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to shout them out. You're going to see in your notes two things. So what we do, and on a regular basis, is I seek out communities and businesses that are doing these exceptional things, and I find these tools that are available. So when you go to successfulindependentbusiness.com, on the one side of the screen, on the right side of my screen, is an area called the trending section. You're going to see in that trending section different things that I've found that are really one of a kind that businesses can embrace. We were talking about restaurants before we went on the broadcast. There's a viral video there, a 40-second viral video that a restaurant did to talk about their delivery and pickup options. And this viral video, which took 2 hours to make with a free tool that you can use, a free video tool, got 24,000 views and was pulling customers to this restaurant from hours away. Now, I have that video in that trending section, and then I went and interviewed the young lady who was the marketing director for that restaurant, and I interviewed her for 17 minutes, and she shared how she did this video. So when you go to that trending section, go down there, because all of those are those silver bullets. And that's at Successful Independent Business. And then the second thing I just wanted to make sure everybody has is my web address. It's JS@johnschallert.com. So JS at my name, JONSCHALLERT.com. And what I tell anybody, if you've got successes, if you have problems, if you have issues, you have questions, send them my way. I'll answer every one of them. I get people every day, community leaders, retailers, restaurant owners, who are sending me questions saying, what about this? What about this? What about this? And a lot of times I've got resources that I just do a quick email shot back to you, and we can stay in touch, and I can give you some of these solutions. So I just want to make sure everybody has that before we wrap up today.
Well, thanks so much for that offer. And Logan, I'll get you to put up those two slides. I'm just very briefly going to talk about a program that we're going to launch here. But also, John, you mentioned this hidden link. I received the materials from Peggy. You mentioned a hidden link to some area on your site earlier this morning.
Yeah, actually, since you and Logan are doing the recording, I'm sure you guys are going to do something with the recording. A lot of times I'll record it and then put it on my page, but since you guys are doing the recording, you'll be able to do that.
Got it. All righty. So I became captivated earlier this year in John and his program, and I really feel it has something to offer for not just Saskatchewan businesses, but Saskatchewan communities. Businesses and communities are really interdependent here. So I took John's course, and I'm now facilitating his destination creation program. It's a 2-day online program that SEDA is going to launch in August. As you see here, there's 8 chapters plus the most recent chapter of COVID-19 business survival tips. And the big benefit of this program is you get to listen to John. We have pre-recorded webinars that are embedded in part of the delivery, and then worksheets and discussion items and supplementary materials that we go through. There's also, once you register for the program and we go through it together, the participants have access for the next 6 months to Destination University. So you can still access those materials, the recorded webinars, and associated supplementary materials. Let me know if I'm forgetting anything important, John.
No, I mean, what's important is we have the 2.5-day class I described. Last year we had community leaders all around the continent asking me, can we create a class that's shorter, that basically highlights these destination principles in the most important ones in a more simple way. So I recorded 11 webinars, including a new COVID-19 webinar that's constantly updated. We have 9 authors and business experts, and the actual workbook has now taught by 53 facilitators. There are 2 facilitators in Canada. There's one in Alberta, and there's Verona is the only one in Saskatchewan. And Verona can teach this entire, anybody in the world it can take this class online. And we're seeing business owners and community leaders are taking this class online. So we're excited. Verona, this will be the first time in Canada that this course is being taught and offered.
And it's really good material. Logan, if you could just put up that second slide. Now, what we did is we're testing. It's really a program that can be taken over a 2-day period. And of course, we can be flexible and break it out so we don't get inundated with too much Zoom time. So we're testing it in August. I've set up delivery over 5 days. It's a bit of a market test, 2.5 hours each day. But again, we're open to customizing it. What I would like to see is a minimum of 10 participants, so we're able to discuss and learn from each other, and we'll probably cap it at a maximum of 20. What we've done is we've priced it the same as what the US offering is, but in Canadian dollars, so it's a deal. And I'm really excited. I really feel that this program could be translated just as easily to community as to independent businesses. When I went through the program, I could have crossed out business and put community in so many different areas. Unique selling proposition, again, or, you know, what is our unique points about the community that we could be communicating better and to attract residents and businesses. So I'm very excited about it and thrilled to be offering it. And John's very charismatic, and you get to listen to him through almost 2 days. So it's a great program. We have it online. The registration's open on the SEDA website under the Learn drop-down menu, and we've created a page, Destination Creation Program. And we have an early bird rate going right now in terms of folks registering before August 4th. But we're looking forward to hearing back from you folks here in Saskatchewan to see if there's an opportunity to deliver to groups of businesses or where the interest may lay, and we can shift up our delivery as we go forward. So thanks again, John. Great as usual. Learned a lot. Thanks so much for all you're doing for businesses, and John truly does answer all your emails. He's a great resource, and I encourage you to add him to your email list. Thanks again.
You're welcome, Verona. Thank you. And thanks for being one of our facilitators up there. I look forward to getting this message out to the businesses up there. You know, when Tyler asked about, you know, how do you get these businesses to start telling their story? This is how this is how they start telling their story. They learn how to become a destination like these businesses I referenced at the beginning. And it's all totally transferable. It's not a difficult process. I always tell owners, this is not a difficult process. It's doing stuff that you've naturally thought about, and you maybe thought, you know, I should do this, but now you actually are seeing examples of business owners all over North America who did it, and you can follow their lead. So that's what's really great about you bringing this to Saskatchewan and to all of Canada.
Well, I think it's what we need right now, so it's really appropriate. Thank you for everything you do. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good talking to you.
And we'll have this recording up on our website next week, and I'll be pushing out the materials by email that John has alluded to earlier. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.